is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
We are doing chapters 18 and 19 today, which, will get better as we go on. It starts out about as weak as it's going to be, and then it escalates to a much cooler ending than it starts at.
I'm really happy that Perrin at least gets some progression in the dream world in this chapter, right? Like, we keep seeing him go in and be like, I don't know how to learn. And, like, admittedly, he relearns a few things in this one, but he's actually making progress for the first time. So I really like that.
I will grant you that. It is nice to see him effectively retreading ground that we've already tread before instead of stalling, but still.
So I guess I should read us in.
Yeah.
The strength of this place, and our chapter header is Hopper, or the wolf.
Definitely Hopper.
And the strength of this place is, of course, you are the strength, right? The strength of this place reflects the strength in you, your will.
It's just a weave.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what the strength of
That's
this
what we're
place
going
boils
for, yeah.
down to is it's just a weave.
And I think that's why It's Just a Weave is so effective, is because there is so much build up and working through and him like discovering the world of dreams. I think, as much as it's a little slow and we're like, come on, let's get along with it already. There is a point where it's like, oh, he does spend all this time naturally accepting the world of dreams in a way that Egwene always saw it as a tool. He sees it as like part of him and part of the wolf.
Well, because that's how Hopper teaches him to look at it, right? The wise ones have a very human-centric, tool-oriented kind of approach, whereas Perrin learns it by being with Hopper, who lives there full time. It's a completely different approach.
Perrin ran through the darkness. Trails of watery mist brushed his face and condensed in his beard. His mind was foggy, distant. Where was he going? What was he doing? Why was he running? He roared and charged, ripping through the veiled darkness and bursting into open air. He took a deep breath and landed on the top of a steep hill, covered with short, patchy grass, with a ring of trees at its base. The sky rumbled and churned with clouds, like a boiling pot of tar. He was in the wolf dream. His body slumbered in the real world, on this hilltop with Faile. He smiled, breathing deeply. His problems had not diminished. In fact, with the White Cloak's ultimatum, they seemed magnified. But all was well with Faile. That simple fact changed so much. With her at his side, he could do anything. He leaped down from the hillside and crossed the open area where his army camped. They had been here long enough that signs had appeared in the wolf dream. Tents reflected the waking world, though their flaps were in a different position each time he looked at them. Cook fire pits in the ground, ruts in the pathways, occasional bits of refuse or discarded tools. Those would pop into existence and then vanish. He moved quickly through the camp, each step taking him 10 paces. Once he might have found the lack of people in the camp eerie, but he was accustomed to the wolf dream now. This was natural.
It's natural. Well, just because it's natural doesn't mean it won't kill you, Perrin.
Right. Hey, I mean, the natural forest is deadly, right?
Very. I mean, less so here in the Pacific Northwest than it could be in, say, Australia, but,
Yeah, well, we still have our dangers, for sure.
I did meet a bear once.
And even just things like, the number of people who drowned in the local rivers is very high.
Or die of hypothermia because they can't find their way out of the woods and they're wearing cotton and it's getting dark.
Yeah. Like, it's very easy to get lost. Then it's not so much the animals as just the nature, the world itself. The environment can be deadly to get lost in.
Yeah. So anyway, less deadly than some woods, but still deadly enough.
Woods are deadly. Like, there's a reason there's always dark, scary monsters living in the woods.
Yeah. Running into a bear in the woods is like, oh, I dislike this. I will be leaving now.
Or large cats, right? I know we don't have a lot of those up here, but like large cats in particular are scary.
Cats are, I think, as far as I know, we've got plenty of cats where I'm living. And yeah, they're scary because they will actually stalk you in a way that a bear won't. A bear you will stumble into and go, oh, and then both of you will want to back away from it. Whereas a cat might literally stalk you for food because you are close enough to deer-sized. So...
Isn't it crazy that the two scariest animals that were like a pack of wolves and big cats, and we're like, oh yeah, we domesticated those and brought them into our house.
But we didn't domesticate lions or whatever. Like,
no, but cats.
Yeah.
We made them small and domesticated a breed of them.
Yeah, they weren't that
big. Same thing
with
with wolves.
Little cats were little. But yeah, wolves is... dogs are so scary. Even dogs are scary if they're in a pack and they have a mind of their own, kind of made up outside of your human control. Like, dogs are scary. Wolves, how did we decide wolves should be friends? I mean, I get it, but I don't get it.
We didn't. They did. They did. I'm convinced they domesticated themselves by eating our trash and just hanging out with us.
True. And I mean, to a certain extent, cats, I think, started the same deal because they were like, look at this buffet of rodents that you have created by storing grains.
By grain, yeah.
Like,
yum, yum, yum.
You really can't stop the cats from showing up. You might as well make friends with them, I guess. Yeah. It reminds me of Perrin, right? Because you have the dragon riders of Perrin where there's these big wild dragons, and then you have the small domesticated species that hangs out on people's shoulders, but they're like related. Except that's the opposite in Perrin, actually. The little ones are the wild ones, and then they did genetic editing to make the big ones out of the little ones.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. They did
technically.
Should reverse that.
That is kind of a whole book's
history.
worth of plot.
Yeah. But yes, the big and the small, but they still domesticate the wild ones. Yeah.
And the intelligence levels are very, very different, right? Like the little ones are definitely little intelligence compared to the big ones, which have big intelligence. Anyway, back to these
the book.
books.
Yeah.
So yeah, Perrin's vibing, thinking about the present, thinking about the past, doing wolfy dream things.
He's scouting too. He's going into the White Cloak camp.
And he's scouting. Because Brandon Sanderson was apparently screaming this at Robert Jordan throughout the entire Faile plot. Like,
I love this. Shouldn't he have tried something like this when Faile was kidnapped? He'd sent numerous scouts to Malden. Light, he had to restrain himself to marching off to find Faile on his own. But he'd never visited the place in the Wolf Dream. Sanderson being like, Jordan, why?
Yeah.
Like, it's such a plot hole. Why didn't he go?
Yeah.
And it's just like, because, and I think what Jordan here is saying there is he's so obsessed with the world of a man and his wife that he's completely forgotten about the wolf dream and doesn't think about it and doesn't use it as a tool.
But yeah, I hear little baby writer Sanderson just screaming at Winter's heart, and Knife of Dreams, just like, why aren't you doing it? Why? And then he got handed the pen and was like, I will be addressing this.
Yeah, like he's sending Ashaman to go scout, and it's like, why aren't you doing it in the Wolf Dream? Like, see if you can follow in the Wolf Dream. You can move faster than any Ashaman. They don't have to exhaust themselves.
I guess he got to level up his intelligence from -1 to 0.
But I think it's a good plot point. I think it's a good plot hole that Sanderson's pointing out here.
Yes.
Right. And he's hanging a lantern on it. Remember that phrase that we brought up last time?
Yes.
And saying, yes, I see that this was a problem. I see that this could be a plot hole. And people could be like, why didn't he think of that? And it's like, oh, well, you just have the character be like, oh, I should have thought of that. And then you can move on.
It is very economical.
That's how you be like, a lot of plot holes. People are like, why didn't they just do this? And you just have your character be like, I didn't think about it. Because as an author, you didn't either.
Which, I mean, human error is a very real factor. And he has some pretty on the nose thoughts about the White Cloaks. Like, the White Cloaks like things neat and orderly and tidy, and that's what's wrong with their worldview. And also, I have to deal with them before I can move on. It's all very
black and white thinking, and all that stuff. Yeah,
it's all very labeled black and white on the page. This is what is happening, and this is how Perrin understands that there are shades of gray between black and white extremes.
One of the things he picks up is the signet ring of the Lord Captain Commander, a.k.a. Galad, and he doesn't recognize it, but he memorizes it. And it's just like, at what point is he going to find out who this fucker is, right?
And doesn't he bring that design to Balwer, and Balwer doesn't know it, which I'm just like, absolutely not. Balwer would know every single symbol that was associated with Galad Jamadred, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously. He's way too important to the White Cloaks back in the day. He did the research. He has a complete dossier on Galad. You think he doesn't know what his signet ring looks like? No.
My biggest problem with this plotline is how long it fucking takes Perrin to realize it's Galad.
And I think it's all Sanderson screwing around on Balwer. Balwer should have been this should have been it. This signet ring should have been the nail in the coffin of Balwer saying, I know who this is. All right, so now we interact with Hopper, and Hopper teaches Perrin the first actual lesson that Perrin has learned in the Wolf Dream on purpose ever, I think.
Other than you are here too strongly.
Right. This is the art of following, the art of being able to track someone when they change locations. This is very important in his fights with Slayer, right? Being able to hop locations is vital to being able to deal with a hunter like Slayer.
Well, and it's the real moment where the tables turn in their fight, right? Because it's the first time, Perrin gets the upper hand sometimes, but Slayer can always flee if Perrin gets the upper hand, right? And so Perrin has never been able to finish him off. He's been able to fight, but he cannot follow. And so this lesson of being able to follow Slayer when he flees, which is something Slayer cannot do, right?
Slayer has a human sense of smell.
Yeah, right. And there are other ways to track somebody other than the smell from where they go, but that's how Perrin does it.
Right. He cannot imitate what Perrin is doing. He has to find some other way, and he's clearly not putting those two dots together.
And so that moment when Perrin follows him for the first time is the moment when Slayer essentially panics and Perrin wins. So that, like, this lesson right here is the moment where he gets to beat Slayer.
It's a level up.
Yep, for sure. And so, yeah, Hopper disappears a bunch of times, then finally says, like, gives an image and says, follow here. This is what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
So, and I guess at this point, he still hasn't figured out how to follow with the scent. Does he actually? Because he just follows the image. I'm not sure he ever actually gets the scent. I think he's still working on that.
Well, he gets there eventually. But we have a classic, I can't teach you the skill because you have to know it yourself sort of thing, back and forth. Perrin picks up the smell thing eventually. I think you're right. It doesn't happen here. But
No,
it's the
not in this
beginning
chapter.
of that skill. It takes him a while. He's sort of, Eye of the Tiger montages through developing the nuances of the skill. But this is the inciting part of the lesson. And then Hopper attempts to explain to him the whole how to anchor yourself in the strength of this place and how to modulate the strength of your connection to this place. And he mistakenly identifies the two rivers as home. And Perrin says, well, actually, it's Faile. And Hopper's like, fine, whatever works. I don't actually care.
Yeah.
Like,
whatever your anchor is, you find an anchor, right? Whether it's your home, whether it's a person, like, you're human. You figure it out, right? But you need an anchor.
right. The point is you need, what's your core anchor that will always bring you back to your body? Okay, your wife. Great. Awesome.
And I like the idea of holding something fragile very tightly.
Yeah.
Right? Where you have to, like, grip it really hard because you can't drop it and someone's trying to get it away from you. But if you crush it, you're going to destroy it. And so you have to, like, you're here too strongly is basically you're gripping that fragile egg too strongly. You're going to break it. But you still have to, like, hold on really tightly to that egg because Hopper's trying to knock it out of your hands.
Right. Exactly. It's a very, very delicate balance that you have to maintain through some pretty intense trials, right? That's the real thing of this, is it's not just the act of holding it, it's the act of holding it while being hit by a wolf, while being buffeted by storm winds, while fighting a nightmare, while dealing with all of those things. He has to be able to modulate it within that. And that is going to be a skill he literally has to montage because it's going to take a long time to learn. He should have been learning this books ago.
Right, and there's that moment. He was there. He imagined it solid and real. He smelled the oats, the humid air, alive with the sense of dirt and light and fallen leaves. He's able to lock himself down by being in that place. And that repeats a bunch of times, right? Like, there's some philosophy, and, like, I do enjoy this interaction between Hopper and Perrin. I think this is a good, like, it's just a fun read, right? I don't really have much to say about it other than, like, I like the teacher-pupil interaction that's going on here.
Yeah, and I like the comment that he smells kind of like Thom when Thom is training recruits. Like the older, experienced battle leader being like, all right, you young pups, gather around. Here's how to not stick yourself with your own sword, right? Like there's a certain energy there, and Hopper's a mentor. Hopper's an elder mentor, and you love to see it.
And in the way that Perrin is somewhat wolf, Hopper has become somewhat human, right? Because he's learning to teach the human way, which is explaining things and showing instead of just, oh, well, you already know this, let me remind you.
Right. Using an image, because smell is clearly not what's leaping to Perrin's mind. It's like, yeah, Hopper's learning how to think like a human enough to reach Perrin where Perrin is at.
And Perrin doesn't have the ancestral memories, right? These wolves have these ancestral memories where they never have to learn anything in the wolf dream because their ancestors knew it and they have those memories.
Which, weird, but okay. It's the whole concept of instinct, I guess. And then the last event of this POV is a flicker of a dream spike. Just a flicker. It turns on, and then it turns off again. I assume that this is Maradon chucking it into the dream and then letting Grandal retrieve it. But I'm interested in your thoughts.
I think it's just being tested. I think that this is just Slayer testing it out. Because he's by Perrin. It's a pretty small thing. He's just being like, oh, does this work? Yes or no, right? Like, can I turn it on?
Okay. Yeah. Either way, it's clearly a test because it flickers on for like a whole 30 seconds and then goes off again. And when we see it next, it's in a different location. But yeah, this is the does this thing work test. And Hopper is like, ooh, that gives me a very vague bell of a sense of foreboding. But anyway, not sure about that.
The Encyclopedia Watt is pretty firm that it's Slayer testing it, but I'm not sure if that's a statement he makes later or if that's just an assumption because they're in the right area.
I mean, it's the simpler explanation. Either way, whoever's doing it, it's clearly not the big install. This is just a test.
Mm-hmm. And they didn't think like just happen. You would either have to happen to be making a gateway at that moment or Perrin or happen to be in the Wolf Stream to see it, right? Both of those things were pretty unlikely.
Tavirin.
It also, is he inside the bubble or outside of it? It's not exactly clear.
He doesn't back away far enough to see where the curve goes. He's too close to it.
And he doesn't look up to see whether it's in the sky or not until it disappears.
He says it extended up into the sky and distantly to right and left. Like, I think he's just too close and it looks like a flat plane. And so then, I'm ready to go to the next POV, which is a rare instance of a map in my book. We get an actual
such a good map
of the city and the city of Maradon with the road to Chachin, the road to Bendar Eban, the River Aranel, and the upper and lower camp that is described to the north of the town where Rodel Ituralde and his forces are currently being besieged. It's very appreciated to have a map before a description of a very geographically shaped POV.
And it really does seem like they're basically on a hill in front of the only entrance from the Blight into this area, right?
Yeah,
and so
a fortified hill.
You have to cross this hill. They're fortified hill. And to get into this area, you have to climb up the front of it and then down the back of it. And they're basically camping on the back of the hill where they can't be hit by arrows and fighting from the top of it because the Trollocs have to climb up the slope to get to the top. And so that's their elevated position.
Yeah, exactly. And it would be easier yet to actually back up to the town, which has walls and all that. But the people in the town won't let them in because you're not legally here, which we know ultimately is because there's actually dark friends at the top of the decision chain. But the current excuse is that, well, you're here illegally, so we don't want you to defend us from literal monsters. Thank you.
And he's just like, I don't understand why. Why are we not being let in?
Yeah. And the answer is dark friendery.
Dark friends, yeah.
It literally takes a man going traitor in order to have good people do the right thing, which is awkward. But for now, he's fighting on top of the hill, and the Trollocs are trying to get over the river, up the hill, down the hill, into the town, right? That's the pathway. And they're like choking the river with their bodies. It's really nasty and hard. And they've been fighting for days and days. People already have lifelong injuries. Like we've got the one guy wandering around on a peg leg that was like, amputated a few days ago, right? Like we're deep into the battle at this point. Things are already kind of borderline desperate. And this is the freshest we're going to see Ituralde for many, many chapters.
And you've got healing, right? So you can heal an amputated limb, but you can't regrow it.
Right. You still have to get used to walking with a peg leg in the middle of a war zone and recover your physical energy from that healing as well. It's tough. It's really desperate times. And again, this is the least desperate they will be for many chapters.
I mean, I kind of headcanon that the Nynaeve level of healing has spread, and so most of these people are being healed without their energy being drained. That, like, we've moved beyond that level of...
Nah.
No?
No, it's barely spread to the other eyes to die. I don't think it's very effectively gotten to the Ashaman. I mean, but because the Ashaman's healing is mostly what Flynn figured out, I think. Like, whatever Tame passed along...
Yeah, but wasn't that because remember Arengar gave them hints, and he gave them hints on how to do the healing without sucking out the energy. So all of their healing is the good kind.
It's not the rough battlefield stuff that the Aes Sedai have had for you. Oh.
Because they got it from Forsaken. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's a good point. Okay, so you've got that much, but you still have the psychological burden of dealing with the fact that you have a peg leg now.
Oh, totally. Of having lost a limb. Yeah.
I mean, phantom limb, right? Like this. Ugh.
And so they're being effective enough that the bad guys have set up their siege equipment that they meant for the city to take out this fortified hill, which is like a huge accomplishment because like a hill is not, you're doing a lot of work if you're able to stop them at a hill enough that they have to break out the things that were designed for city walls, right?
Right, yeah.
And so, this is Ituralde being an incredibly good general.
Yeah, he's a great captain. You see it here. He's forced them to stop and set up their siege equipment preemptively with, total numerical disadvantage and all that. And yeah, they start getting pummeled with dead bodies, which is a thing that people have done in the real world for psychological and biological warfare reasons. And Ituralde thinks that that's what's happening here. He thinks it's just demoralization and damage.
And it is.
And it is. They are definitely achieving demoralization and damage. But it only takes a few volleys before they get used to it and they're not super worried about it. And then 6 times the number of objects are falling through the sky and they're all drag car. And that was very stealthy. That was very clever. But the bodies all open their wings up and start singing death songs at you. Scary.
And there's a fair amount of being in Ituralde's head before that moment. He thinks about how the Ashaman, he pushed them too hard and now he has to let them rest and only use them when necessary. He's thinking about how I was retreating towards Aerodomon from the south, and now I've been teleported north, and I'm retreating towards Aerodomon from the north, and
always retreating towards my homeland. Rough.
And then, more about the fact that, I just wish I could fight in the city, but they're not letting him in. What kind of idiots wouldn't let me in? Dark friends.
Yeah, and he does the thing where he tries to project confidence by just being calm, which, again, it's one of those great captain, good leader kind of traits that we see. Is if you can project calm, then you are doing your job as a leader at the tippity top.
And so, he gets buried. He realizes just a second too late before he can call out for the archers that the Drakkar are coming down. And he does that cool thing where he's yelling so loud he can't hear them crooning. So then he stabs them. It's just very badass. So, Borderlander tactics, right? He knows enough about Drakkar that he knows how to fight them.
He's a very adaptable fighter. He's never fought a Drakkar in his life, but he knows that noise overwhelm is going to really do him well, which that would be my strategy too. I tend to get loud when I'm just annoyed. So if I was ever in a fight for my life, you can bet that wall of sound will be one of the legendary actions that I am pulling.
Screaming at the top of my lungs.
Yeah. I don't need those vocal cords tomorrow.
Sonic attack.
Yeah. And he thinks that Rand al'Thor had better keep his damn promise to make it all better at some point, somehow.
Right, because he's holding a losing battle, right? He's trying to extend it as long as he can. But this is an incredibly large number of Trollocs, more than he can handle, no matter how clever he is. So he needs that help. He's just trying to hold until the help arrives.
It really reminds me of the last stand of Manetheren. It's the exact same energy. Hold for an hour. And another, and another. For 9 days they held. It's the exact same energy.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't notice that before, but that's really well done.
And in this case, waiting for help is not because you're being betrayed. It's not because the Dragon Reborn is, screwing around, but it's still the same level of you should have died a week ago, and yet here you are still fighting. And when Rand shows up, he's appropriately in awe of it, but I just feel like it does not get identified as a parallel to the last stand of Manetheren nearly enough. I'm going to choose to believe that Ituralde is, a rebirth of one of those generals from that struggle. Because why not?
Why not? And I think that takes us to Faile POV.
Yeah, Faile actually communicates with Elayne, and the plot moves forward. God, I love Sanderson sometimes. We give him shit, but God, I love this. Not because it's good, but just because we needed it.
Yeah, it had to happen. When Elayne said, I will take him from you back in, book, what was that, 3 or 4?
4. That's the opening of book 4.
And it's finally, let's get a resolution to that fucking plot. About time.
Yeah. Sometimes his ham-fistedness is ham-fisted, and sometimes it's thank you for the clarity.
So Faile's heading, she's like, I'm going to go deal with Elayne, right? I had my anniversary dinner with Perrin. We woke up. I'm feeling relaxed.
The air is cleared.
The air is cleared between him, and I want to take care of this thing, because I told him I would.
Right. So next day, She is all refreshed, and she is able to remind herself, no, don't go down the path of anger. Don't get yourself wound up. Don't pick a fight. Picking a fight is going to give you short-term relief. You need a long-term solution, right? She's in the headspace where she can hold herself back from picking a fight.
And her solution is, I need Elayne to come up with a solution. So I need to manipulate her into that.
I mean, sometimes outsourcing is the correct answer. I love her solution. It's like, I'm not smart enough for this, but you are. It's just, that's very smart. It's really, really smart, is to know your strengths and to know other people's strengths and to be humble.
So it makes her a good leader.
It's humble. It's humility to say, no. You got me into this mess. You are going to be the one to get me out.
So Anura comes out of Elayne's tent looking particularly chastened. And this is something where we've never really come down on what's going on between Anura and Elayne. We've never really, I don't think, definitively nailed what's going on between the two of them.
I mean, there's a lot of room.
Now, it has something to do with the prophet, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, Anura was visiting the prophet, and Elayne didn't know about that and got pissed off when she found out about it. And that's kind of what put Anura out of her favor. But then Anura does this whole thing later where she sacrifices herself to save Galad, right? And so there's this, like, is she in love with Elayne? Seems maybe something's going on there, right?
There's something going on where Elayne has not forgiven her yet, and Anura is deeply personally affected by that refusal to bring her back into the circle of trust. I think she says something like, she's broken it, she has to mend it. Very similar to how Egwene chastens Swan.
Right.
And Anura seems to make multiple attempts to reconcile that get rejected and rebuffed. And I like the headcanon of an unrequited crush, but I think we get left with very little canonical detail. We just know that it hadn't happened in time for Anura to choose anything other than burning herself out to try to make it up to Elayne. Like, that's how bad she still felt in the doghouse when, Galad was there with the dying and all that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, because she is gray, so she's trying to, I feel like she's just trying to negotiate and failing. She keeps trying to negotiate with crazy people.
Yeah. And I mean, and there's absolutely every reason to read it as just a professional friendship that is really intense, but there's room there for spicier headcanon if you want.
Okay. But yeah, that's the extent of my speculation on what's going on there.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever the thing is that's going on between them, it is circling the drain and not actually resolving.
And ends up leading to her burning herself out.
Yes. I mean, in some ways, Galad can thank her for not having this resolved, because if not, he might have gotten left to die. So Faile goes in, is let into the camp. The guards have been told to let her in and not give any guff. And she's like, yeah, you better not. And she goes and talks to Elayne. And I think before we get into the conversation between them, I think it's just so interesting, despite the fact that Sanderson is a man. I think that this is actually a really insightful little moment where Faile feels downright dingy in comparison to Elayne and feels all ugly and the wrong proportions and on and on and on, because this is how people are, right? This is just a thing people do, is you look at all of your flaws and what you admire about other people, and you make ridiculous comparisons and consider yourself to be ugly or whatever. And someone, thinks that you're incredibly beautiful, and that's just how people are. But particularly in the context of powerful women dealing with their power struggles. I mean, not that I've ever been a powerful woman in a power struggle, but
I beg to differ.
I've heard enough women talk about their power struggles in like corporate office settings and stuff to know that this is a very real dynamic of just like really comparing yourself to your detriment to some. And like, we know Faile's gorgeous because we only ever see her through Perrin's eyes, and he is, completely bowled over by her, and Elayne's only pretty when Faile's not around, right? Like, there's no, in our minds as readers, there's no real comparison. There's the like mathematical perfection of Elayne, and there's the organic beautifulness of Faile. And to have Faile be like so uncertain about her physical appearance is just like, that feels very realistic. That feels very realistic. Women are taught to do that to themselves,
Faile's the kind of actress that if she was, would get a natural role at a young age and everyone would be like, she's gorgeous. And then she could get plastic surgery and you wouldn't recognize her.
Right.
And you'd be like, who is that?
Right.
That's Faile? Really? Fuck, I didn't think, like, oh, well, I don't know. Okay, weird.
Right, because all of the unique asymmetries and distinctivenesses would have been taken away, and that's what makes people beautiful. Elayne is the kind of person who is too beautiful. Her face is too symmetrical, right? It's eerie. That's why her and Galad are so well matched, is because they are designer perfect in a way that is actually uncanny. Whereas Faile has like a big nose and a funny laugh and, like real things.
And she also understands Perrin, right? In a way that Elayne does not.
Oh my
right?
God,
like,
she totally
She
doesn't.
thinks of him, she's like, oh yeah, he's just a normal, like, essentially she comes from a culture that is not a purity culture and doesn't understand purity culture. And Perrin, unfortunately, is from the Two Rivers, where there is this purity culture of like, you don't sleep with anyone outside your marriage. That's not just like a scandal. That's actually, then again, England versus Italy. Right? How many, how, she is so Italian. Oh, yeah, sex scandal, whatever. Like, look at what their politics have been like, right? Mayenne is so Italian, and Two Rivers is so England and puritanical in a way that, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of, but, that's, Perrin can't lead with these rumors, and he can't, like, the people who are following him do not value him as a leader because they see him making poor choices.
Though I do think it's funny contrasting that with Faile's own lecture to Perrin about how a bunch of Saldean rulers have overcome all kinds of different flaws. It is really funny how Elayne throws almost the same spiel, right? Leaders have overcome infidelities before. It's so close to the same argument. It's a little different because the purity culture of the Two Rivers is an extra confounding factor, but it's funny how much it is close to identical arguments.
But I think it's also like he's got enough problems. We don't need any more.
Sure, absolutely. And also it's not, as Faile says, it's an annoyance to them both, right? You were not even a third wheel. You're like, keep attaching yourself like a piece of toilet paper on my shoe at a festival. Like, this is annoying. You are annoying. You're not adding anything here. Like, and Elayne, does not get Perrin in the sense that she's like, no, he was encouraging me and he was into me. And it's like, no, he wasn't encouraging.
He depended on you.
He appreciated it when you stopped chasing him, which meant that he was friendlier to you. But like, Elayne is the kind of person who can't, I guess, see friendship without there being an ulterior motive, which makes sense because of the games she's had to play as the ruler of Mayenne, leading a bunch of nasty, perverted old men from Tyr around so that way she can stay independent, right? But it's just, she doesn't get Perrin.
And the parallel of trying to lead from a place of no power, when in Tyr it was like, oh, you're the small nation, but here it's like, well, you're not the wife.
Yeah.
And in both cases, it's like, oh, yeah, you're not formally bonded to these, so you have to act in a very indirect way through rumors and, manipulation rather than just saying what you want. And she's like, stop it. Like, we're done with that. Like, let's work together. And like, I can't deal with these rumors. And the only way I can think of to deal with them is to challenge you to a battle, right? We fight, I kill you. Yeah, it won't stop the rumors, but at least everyone knows you're not sleeping with them anymore if you're dead. And like, I don't want to do this, but that's all I can think of.
Right. And it's not just because she doesn't want to risk the fight. It's because she wants the Mayenne army. She wants the allyship, right? She's like, no, I need you as a piece of the army, but I need you as a functional piece of the army, which you are not while you're sticking a hole in the leadership of the overall leader. So
yeah, Faile didn't want her to go. The disappearance of her troops would be a blow in the face of that looming White Cloak army.
Exactly. She's like, I don't want to fight you, but that's the only thing I can think of. So do your thing, clever girl, and figure out a better solution.
And she points out, like, we are in a bad situation because you kind of made a move thinking I wouldn't come back from Maradon and like Malden. And like, yeah, that was a good move, right? If Faile didn't come back from Malden, Elayne would have been set up to take over as Perrin's wife.
Which would have gone well for the army, gone well for the forces of light in the last battle. Not the worst backup plan.
No, but not good for Perrin or Elayne. No.
Not good for the entire interim period. It's only good in the eventuality that Faile doesn't come back. It's a terrible plan otherwise.
Well, and I think also we have to, like, how much would Perrin have, without his home, without his anchor, he would have been useless, I think, without Faile. Like, he would have fallen apart
I don't think that the Elayne home vibe in the World of Dreams would have cut the mustard. I don't think it would have worked, you know? I don't think he would have had an anchor in Talleyrand Riyadh if he had had second-rate wife, second-choice wife.
And so, yeah, then Faile says, well, you fix it. And Elayne says, well, we got to be friends. That's the only way. We literally have to do the thing that, like, no one would be like, well, if she slept with him, they wouldn't be friends. There's no way. And Faile's like, I don't want to be fucking friends with you. And she's like, too bad. We're about to be besties.
She's like, yeah, that kind of proves the point, right?
Right.
Like, you're pissed at me in ways that are irreconcilable, but if we fake it till we make it, it might. And, you know, we're still going to formally denounce the rumors because they're just rumors. Look at what good friends we are. I would never.
And do you think she'd be friends with me if I did? Right?
Right. And it's funny because then they do end up kind of becoming almost friends because they are, in fact, very similar people who could totally be friends. And the only reason they're not friends is because of this power struggle thing. And it's clever and funny and ergonomic on the plot. And I like it as a solution.
And clearly where Jordan was going from the beginning, right? Like the two birds sitting on Perrin, the prophecy and all that kind of stuff, right? Like it's a nice resolution to that prophecy where it's like, okay, they're working together to make and something we wanted so often was like we want them to work together to manage Perrin's forces and have everything go well because they both have skills that work really well together.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Faile throws in the one last requirement. Also, you were going to find another man to pay attention to.
Galad.
Which I think, honestly, the way that she reacts to Galad and the way Galad reacts to her, Faile didn't have to say that to make it happen.
No.
But
no, not at all.
It also makes sense that she puts it in as a requirement.
Have they seen each other yet? I can't remember. No. Okay.
It's a real hilarious Disney slow-mo kind of moment when it happens. You'll know it when you see it.
Yeah. No, it's a fun moment. I just couldn't remember if we podcasted about it yet.
No, I think it's when they meet for the official trial, like in a tent and stuff.
And she's just like, who's that? And he's like, who's that?
It's really funny.
It feels very Shakespearean in that they both have like these trusted aides that they're like, who's that person over there? Are they? And then there's like these star-crossed lovers because they're on opposite sides of the army. And Elayne's like, maybe we couldn't, it shouldn't have died. The whole like when Perrin's setting up to save them and not saying anything, she's like, please don't. I love him. He's so cute. And Perrin's like, what are you talking about? I'm going to save him. Like, shut up.
Right, she's over there like, I can fix him. He's like, I literally was not going to break him. Yeah, that's the end of that chapter. Should I read us out of it?
Sure. Yeah, give us a little.
We will need to be seen as friends, Elayne explained. Fighting, being at odds, this will fuel the rumors. But if we are seen spending time with one another, it will disarm them. That, mixed with a formal renunciation on my part of the rumors, will likely be enough. Faile sat down in the chair she had been using earlier. Friends? She detested this woman. It would have to be a believable act, Elayne said, rising and walking over to the serving stand at the corner of the tent. She poured herself some chilled wine. Only that would work. You'll find another man as well, Faile said. Someone you can give your attentions to, for a time at least, to prove that you're not interested in Perrin. Elayne raised the cup. Yes, she said. I suspect that would help too. Can you put on such an act, Faile ni Bashir Tebara? You believed I was ready to kill you over this, didn't you? Faile thought. I promise it. Elayne paused, wine cup halfway to her lips. Then she smiled and drank. We shall see then, she said, lowering the cup. What comes of this? Go get yourself a fuckboy for a little bit.
I love how she's like, well, the White Cloaks would be a really good asset to have for Mayen.
And Faile's like, really? Our enemy?
Mm-hmm.
That's who you pick? It's so funny.
And I can see the White Cloaks like making Mayen their headquarters. They're a pretty small group. Why not?
Mayen is really looking for any kind of allies they can get. I mean, if there's anyone who could make the argument that it's okay to Operation Paperclip a bunch of terrorists long term, someone in the Discord was like, I can't believe you want to Operation Paperclip the White Cloaks. It's like, well, I mean, is it really Operation Paperclip if you just put them as cannon fodder?
Sorry, explain?
It's not like we're taking their best and brightest.
Explain Operation Paperclip?
Oh, it's where we took a bunch of Nazi scientists into our space program in the aftermath of World War II.
That one. Okay.
Yeah, the Von Braun of it all.
That's basically what Galad is doing with Perrin.
Yeah, we were making that argument that it would make so much sense to like fold them in, and I forget who were in what channel, so I can't check. But someone was like, "I can't believe you want to Operation Paperclip the White Cloaks." Like, I mean, but they're not rocket scientists; they're cannon fodder. It's different,
Right. We want to put them on the front lines of the last battle.
right?
We're
Not on the frontier of science.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see Mayen being like, "No, I can fix him and his organization."
Yeah.
Right.
100%. 100%. And then the next chapter, we get to talk about dragons and not the Dragons Reborn.
No.
Because this is a Matt chapter, not a... Despite the title being Talk of Dragons, it's not a Rand chapter. It's a Matt chapter because it's the cannons that we're setting up. And, of course, we have the dice, which is Matt's symbol.
Yep.
It really is, man. They're throwing like, oh, this is a Matt chapter, Matt symbol. Perrin chapter, Perrin symbol. Rand chapter, Rand symbol. I feel like the headers used to like talk to something more subtle.
Subtle is not in Sanderson's vocabulary.
Yeah, you're right.
Of course, I don't know if he was at all involved in these choices, but subtle is not in the publishing industry's vocabulary at this point. So
I would like to see more headers, I think, for the last books. Because I feel like they were creating more. Like there was a set, they kept adding more chapter headers.
another set for the last 3 books would have been nice. Another crop of like, I don't know, 13 would have been pretty cool. But
yeah, good idea. But yeah, we're gonna go right into the Matt chapter, Talk of Dragons. I'll read us in. Matt tugged on a sturdy brown coat. The buttons were brass, but other than that, it was free of ornamentation. Made of thick wool, it had a few holes from arrows that really should have killed him. One of the holes had a blood stain around it, but that had mostly been washed out. It was a nice coat. He would have paid a good coin for a coat like this one when he lived back in the Two Rivers. He rubbed his face, looking in the mirror of his new tent. He had shaved off that bloody beard, finally. How did Perrin manage that bloody itching? The man must have sandpaper for skin. Well, Matt would find another way to disguise himself when needed. He had nicked himself a few times while shaving, but it was not as if he had forgotten how to take care of himself. He did not need a manservant to do what he could manage on his own. Nodding to himself, he pulled on his hat and grabbed his Ashendari from the corner of the tent. The ravens on the blade seemed to perch excitedly in anticipation of battles to come. Bloody right you do, Matt said, resting the Ashendari on his shoulder as he walked out of the tent. He grabbed his pack and slung it over his other shoulder. Starting tonight, he would be spending nights in the city. I don't think there's anything... There's not a real good stopping spot on that one.
agreed. That was where I had sketched out the read-in might be.
So yeah, he's wearing his coat. The coat becomes... So I was saying I really like this chapter. I feel like this is where Sanderson actually nailed some Matt attitude, right? This whole thing with the coat where he's like, I'm going to put on a shitty-ass coat with holes in it and blood stains, and it's a rough wool, and I'm going to go see the queen because, like, I'm defying her, kind of like with the letter, right? And I'm showing her that I don't care that she's nobility and that I'm nobility, which I'm not. But the more and more closer he gets to the actual meeting, the more he goes, I probably should have worn a nice coat.
And the more it itches.
And the more it itches, and it's like not in good shape. And he's like, because he is a noble. That's the whole point. Like he's saying he's not, but he totally wears nice. And he's like, I wish I had a little lace on here. And I wish and it's like, dude, just wear the nice coat. You're fucking noble. You're rich. You have troops. Get over it.
Yeah, you're used to nice things. People expect nice things of you. You can afford nice things. You have nice things already in your closet. Yeah, no, this to me feels much more like the Matt I was expecting. It's still the Matt we've always known because he's still grumbling about the same things, but this is no women are like goats. You know, this is him being, progressively. And it's also like Sanderson doing a good job of using a prop to tell a story layered underneath what's actually happening, like verbally. He's really struggled with that in the prior volumes. But here he's actually doing it pretty effectively as the coat gets more uncomfortable and Matt gets more second guessy about it in the back of his mind as his conversations are going on. It's very good, I think. I totally agree with you about it.
So we get a little recap. The golem's in the area. There's a bunch of mercenaries in the area who say they're who showed up after the battle was done. He's like, yeah, they're not very loyal, but whatever. Like, this is a real powder keg with all these mercenaries here.
Tempers are running hot, and no one knows what we're pointing at next.
But they become part of the last battle, right? This is all fighting forces for the last battle. And I think there's a moment, where they're like, we're not going to fight unless we get paid. And he's like, it's the last bloody battle. You're going to fight or you're going to die. And that sort of is the end of that.
Yeah. Yeah, they're congregating for the last battle. They just don't know that yet. Nobody knows that yet. Only the pattern itself knows that yet. Everyone else thinks that there's something else more mundane going on.
And then the interaction with Oliver. So Oliver has heard about the rescue of Moraine.
They've just been talking about it in front of him, like as though children have no ears or whatever.
And despite the size of his ears.
They always comment on how big his ears are.
Right. And then, and Oliver's, of course, cursing and, who taught you that language? And then he goes, Matt, this is important. I'm like, yeah, because Matt's the one who taught him.
Right. Yeah. Oliver looks at him like he's bonkers because, Matt, I learned to swear from you, obviously. Surely you're asking this rhetorically, and we don't have time for rhetorical questions. We got a plan, dude.
Right.
Because Oliver is determined to be part of heroic, epic adventuring, and this is why we know that he's going to do a very good Guidal Kane impression with his entire life story arc, despite not being Guidal Kane.
And how, he is playing that game when Matt wins, and there is some sort of relationship between the game of Snakes and Foxes that he's playing over and over and over again, right? And Matt rescuing Moraine, right? I feel like there has to be this metaphysical connection where, like, why is he playing the game? Moraine's still captured, and he keeps losing.
Right, and he literally wins when Matt wins. They win at the same time. The only reason Oliver wins is because Matt wins. It's like he's doing like a truth-telling kind of entangled thing.
It feels very similar to Book 2 when Rand is fighting Ishamael, and the battles are linked to how their fight.
Right, Oliver is the battle on the ground. Matt is the battle in the sky. Yeah, and as long as they're not fighting at all, then yeah, the game will be unwinnable. And that's why Oliver is stuck on it, because he's like, I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to win. Part of me knows that I'm supposed to win at this.
Right. To save the world.
And then once he does, right, he wins on the eve of Caemlyn going down in flames, right? So then his life is nothing but rushing towards the last battle and surviving the last battle and blowing the horn, and all of that happens in rapid back-to-back succession immediately after he wins the game. So he's never going back to his childhood and playing that game ever again, right? Like, that was the last game he needed to play. He's done now. He will be good for the rest of his life, at least until he has a little sidekick who he needs to teach a game or something.
And like when they say this game's unwinnable, I think it's one of those games where like you have to roll a natural 20 so many times in a row to win it, or whatever that number happens to be, whether it's a natural 20 or not, where it's like there is a path. There always is a path to winning it if the dice roll correctly, but the odds are so slim of that ever happening. You could play, 100 million times to win once. And so like, but again, that goes with Matt's luck, right? And Matt's luck is linked to the winning of the board and all that kind of stuff.
Right. But it's even harder than rolling 120s in a row, because you have to know when actually an 18 was what you need or whatever, right? Like, it's just so, if you know, you could figure it out technically, but how, right? Like, they've set the conditions so that way you're forbidden that information unless you have, Matt's ability to just trust. But yeah, it is, there are rules, right? The Finn, whatever is going on with them, the Finn are on the lawful axis, right? You have to follow the rules. They're like jinn or demons or whatever, right? They have very specific rules, and if you can out-lawyer them, then you win.
So now we're on the path to go visit Elayne, right? Matt, he's got the invitation, and so he's taking Thom with him and
Thomanis and like 50 Red Arms.
Yeah.
Oh, and also Oliver has been telling everyone who he's close to about the plan.
Right.
He's like, well, just people we trust, just some Red Arms. And Matt's like, oh my God. First of all, I want these plans to be secret. Second of all, I don't want people thinking I'm doing hero shit. Awkward. I don't like that. Heroes hate being called heroes. It's a whole thing. It's a whole theme in these books.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cute.
And I love that Thom is then dressed to the nines for his return to Camelin. He's no longer a Gleeman, he's a court bard again. Mm-hmm. And he stays that court bard for the rest of the series.
Yeah, he has no reason to go back into Gleeman mode for the rest of the series. He is a bard now. No, he does go back into his Gleeman mode to go rescue Moraine because he wants to look the same to Moraine. He wants to be dressed the same as when they met at the beginning of the series or something like that.
Is he in? I forget what he's wearing in the last battle.
I don't recall. I don't think he's wearing his nicest court clothes. I think he's wearing his more comfortable traveling clothes, which is his Gleeman outfit, because it's a lot better for hiding knives and sitting for long periods of time.
Right.
It's a ranger outfit as opposed to a fancy ballroom outfit. But yeah, I love the transformation from Gleeman to bard and just seeing that and being like, oh, wow, here's Thom like really unveiling his true level, you know?
And it is, because it's always been a little bit of like, oh, he's just a Gleeman. It's like, no, he's not just a Gleeman, you know? And now he's so kind of like, he's no longer has that mask on. He took that mask off of like, yes, I'm now, he's not just a Gleeman. I think he is a Gleeman as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. He's multi-classed in bard and bard.
And then there's a moment where Matt thinks about Lopin and how he wouldn't have this shitty jacket if Lopin had laid him out a proper outfit. And I think there's a little bit of mourning, right? That little bit of like, he shaved because he has to, but he's not changing the jacket. Like there's still a little bit of mourning Lopin in there.
Agreed. I had never thought of that until you mentioned it last episode, but I totally think that this is Matt's very emotionally immature, but nonetheless real way of mourning.
And then there's the, what I would call Schrodinger's noble, right? So, because Matt's like, I'm not a noble. And Talmanis is like, you're not a farmer. And Tom's like, Musenge. Musenge is like the Sean-Chan, right? Yeah. Who worked with Tuon. He's going to say, called you Prince of the Ravens, right? And Prince means you are nobility. And he's like, no. Just because you marry somebody doesn't mean you suddenly become bloody nobility. And then this is one of my favorite exchanges when Thom goes, that's exactly how you become nobility. Like, and he's like, well, maybe it works different in Sean-Chan. And they're like, no, pretty sure it works exactly the same in Sean-Chan. He's like, well, until I talk to Tuon, we don't know for sure. She never said I was the Prince of the Ravens. So until we talk to her, I'm not technically nobility.
He's such a funny man.
And so I really love his justification there of like, you know, I both am and am not nobility until we talk to Tuon, until we look in the box.
But it's like so funny because he's like, just because I married a noble doesn't mean I'm a noble. It's like, that is the only way to become a noble aside from being born as one or like raised by decree. Like that's literally the definition of how that works. It's so funny. It's so deadpan. It's so hilarious. Like, yeah, Sanderson is getting Matt so much better in this chapter than he was before. We love to see that development from him. And also, this is the beginning of Talmanis starting to have a sense of humor that we see on the page. We're getting a little bit of that starting to flower out. And
I've noticed that Talmanis is kind of substituted in for
Julin. Yeah.
Thom, like, it does feel like Julin got bumped off the page and his lines got given to Talmanis here, because you've got Matt and Talmanis Thom and Talmanis making fun of Matt, as opposed to normally you'd have Matt, Jesus Christ, normally you'd have Thom and Julin making fun of Matt in this situation. God, yeah. Names are hard.
Yeah.
So, but it does feel like these lines were originally Julin's and they got given to Talmanis. And it's like you have this sort of taciturn, dry humor character who's adjacent to Matt, and they're kind of the same character.
It's like a starter culture moving from the developed character of Julin to the undeveloped container of Talmanis, and being like, all right, we want Talmanis to be a bit of a dry humor sidekick, and we're gonna take some culture from a prior character and get it started. And I think we're starting to see the ferment bubble into the new medium here.
I feel like on Andral is same. Right, that they wanted to write all of Andral's scenes with Logain. God, names are hard today. Logain, but it was too much of an original character, and they couldn't make it Logain, so they had to make it this other Andral character, who's maybe mentioned once or twice, but isn't much of a character. He's a blank slate, but yet he gets this sort of Black Tower leadership role that really should have gone to Logain. So in the same way that, like, I kind of think as Talmanis and Julin is one character,
yeah,
Andral is kind of a Logain substitute.
Yeah, except with Talmanis, I think it's fine to flesh him out
Yes.
at this late date, whereas Androl comes out of nowhere, where Logain deserved to get fleshed out more.
Right. And that's not so much that I have a problem with Androl as I wish that Logain had gotten that fleshing out.
Yeah, it's not Androl's fault that he was written, but it does suck for Logain.
Right.
All right, so they ride in with Matt thinking about his plans and his worries about how hard it's going to be to get Elayne to work with him, which is all moot because she's super excited to work with him. There's a crowd looking for the famous Lord Matt and probably mistaking Talmanes for him, which is fine. Legends fade to myth. It starts still while the legend is alive. Love that. He thinks about how the Palace of Camelin could work as a bunker. It's not exactly the Stone of Tyr, but he has such a military mind that he can see that it's actually quite well fortified for a palace. Fascinating. That might come in handy later.
In reverse, the Trollocs are going to take it. Jesus.
Well, it could have been an asset. And then we get to see Charles Gaibon again. He's been around, but this is the first time we've seen him in this book. It's been a long time.
Sure. A quick question. He says the conversation with Elayne was going to be tough, but Matt had a hidden card, one he hoped would be enough to get her to look past the expanse of Eludra's proposal. What's that hidden card? I never was really sure what he's referring to there.
The medallion loan.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And it works. It tips her over the edge. When she's teetering on the fence, he pulls it out, and it works.
Well, I think what's so funny is we see Thom observing, and Matt's like, "Oh, I tricked her into it," and Tom's like, "No, she took advantage of you." She immediately saw the value of what you were bringing and negotiated you down to a point where she got something essentially for free, and she stole the cannons from you.
Yeah,
kind of entirely.
Yeah, you might be good at battle, but you're not so good at business.
No. And so that's Thom, and Tom's kind of giggling, and Matt's like, "Whose side are you on?" He's like, "I'm on my side, like everybody's side, like you, but you got taken advantage of.
Well,
you got played."
He's on the side of his, intellectual, if not physical, daughter winning over his emotional adopted son and making good weapons in good hands for the last battle. This is a win-win for humanity.
Totally. Yeah, he's proud of Elayne for absolutely. Vuji is saying he's proud of Elayne, and I think that's true. But you can't really, I think back to Thom of the original books and how much he sacrificed, even because when Matt was corrupted by the dagger, Thom thought he was suffering channeling sickness. And so there was a point where Thom was like willing to sacrifice himself for Matt because he thought he was suffering in the same way that his nephew did.
Yeah. Well, and also he trained Morghese in a lot of the skills that Elayne then got trained by Morghese in, right? So he's seeing that I taught her mom good. Real good.
Don't forget, he also trained her quite a bit. There was a lot of late night conversations where they on the road they had a lot of political conversations. So a lot of his lessons actually were very helpful as well to Elayne. She thinks about that. Yes, all she learned from her mother, but also Thom knew quite a bit and was a very good person to bounce ideas off of and have,
And Thom knows Matt's capacities. And when he sees her just handle him like a kitten, he's like, "That's my girl."
Yeah, so we got Gaibon, who, we see as a very respectable, he's a young leader who has come up through the ranks because he's in the right place at the right time, and he's a very loyal soldier to Elayne.
And he's going to be her third warder. We don't see it happen on page, but she's thinking about him for a third warder, and especially when she loses Brigida and her other warder is, Rand. She's going to need a warder, so it's going to be Gaibon.
I always forget about that, yeah.
Yeah, and also remember, this is a fan character. Remember, this is the husband of a fan.
Oh, I didn't know that. Gaibon?
You're the one that did the research to tell us that on an episode many episodes ago.
Okay, fair enough. I forgot.
But yes, this is one of the fan names that we know of. Gaibon might be Elayne's Talonvor, but I think he's going to be less weird about it.
Right.
I think he's going to be a lot more forward, and Elayne's going to be like, "Yes, let's do this," and it's going to be great.
I think without the Talonvor, without the love aspect of it, but that loyal dedication.
There might be some love. I don't know. She's going to need someone to sleep with, and Bryn and Morghese were sleeping together. So
you think she's not going to keep sleeping with Rand? She knows he's alive after the last battle.
Is he going to be around, or is he going to be off writing poetry on a mountaintop for 50 years? Also, there is Avienda. That's true. I think he's going to be a non-problematic version of Talon 4. Whether or not that's romantic, I don't know. But I think he's going to be very loyal and, you know, he's going to be Bryn. He's going to be Bryn. He's going to be awesome and great. And so, you know, seeing him through Matt's eyes is kind of fun because Matt immediately assesses him as like decent. And then we have a very fun interaction where Gaibon runs through a whole bunch of stories that are fading to myth and legend.
To myth, yeah.
And he's like, hey, Matt, how many of these wild things do you do? And we can recognize every single one as being a thing that happened. And Matt is, you know, doing a bad job of deflecting, shall we say.
I really like it because it's Sanderson saying, hey, all these things that have happened to Matt, here's how they get distorted. And then here's a step between what happens to Matt and our stories of Odin and our stories of these supernatural characters who actually go through these sorts of crazy things, you know?
Absolutely.
You know, hanging for a tree for 9 days. Did he hang from the tree for 9 days?
No.
You know, that's actually a bit of, well, you know, that is a question.
Was it 9 days that they were down in the
Or was
thing?
it 7?
I think it was 7.
I think it was 7.
It can't have been 9 days because they literally weren't down that long.
I thought it was 1 day less than a week, which would have been 9. We're just thinking 7 because their weeks are different lengths than ours, right?
I forget
as well.
But also, he physiologically can't have hung for 9 days. Not outside of the doorway.
No, but there is that moment, right? Like they both have, a week does go by and they both perceive it as a very short amount of time.
That's true.
Right?
I put a lot of that travel on him walking through, but yeah.
You know, if normal time happened to Matt and he was hung right afterwards and he was dead for 9 days and Rand altered the pattern to bring him back, right? Like there's that.
I don't think that happened. I think he was only out of the gateway for a little bit.
I agree that, like, yes, time passed different.
But hanging for quote unquote 9 days because he was on the other side of the gateway for the first few moments, I could believe that. The doorway.
Right.
But yes, it becomes 9 days for the Odin story ultimately. And it is, you know, to gain knowledge. That's what that's about. And Matt did indeed gain knowledge.
Right, hanging under the tree to gain knowledge. That you never lose at dice or at love, and your spear never misses its target. And he's like, well, I've definitely lost at love, and my spear has missed its target for sure, but I don't lose at dice.
Yeah, and even with love and the spear, he still has better luck than most. So, you know, good enough for the legend mythologizing thing.
It's also later when he throws the knife, it loses an eye and throws the knife and takes out a tree branch totally by accident. You know, it's like, oh yeah, your spear never does miss because you can depend on luck to guide it.
Right, yeah. They
say you slew one of the Forsaken. Not true, Matt says. And I was trying to remember, he didn't kill any of the Forsaken, right? Like, Matt never...
He's been part of several concerted efforts to kill a Forsaken that were successful, but you're right, he has not actually taken down a Forsaken in any kind of a one-on-one context. Not like Nynaeve or Moraine has, you know?
Right.
But he has fought multiple Forsaken and not died, or at least been resurrected promptly after being killed. And then the next one is that you dueled the King of the Aiel invaders in a battle of honor.
It's like, yeah, he killed Couladin.
He killed Couladin, and he was not King of the Aiel, and it was not a battle of honor. It was just a duel that happened in a battle.
But King and Karakarn are essentially equivalent statements for the Wetlanders, right? And Couladin was claiming to be the Karakarn, which is the chief of chiefs, right? That is king. And like, it wasn't a duel of honor, but it was an honorable battle. It was honorable fight on the battlefield.
Sure.
So, I mean, it's like, it's very small semantic differences in terms of what actually happened.
And yeah, does that lead into legends of killing a Forsaken also? Maybe, maybe not. But either way, yeah, that did happen. And then Gaibon says, well, that one at least seems realistic. Unlike, and Matt has to prod because it's like, it's a really embarrassing rumor to say you believe in, but also it is, you stepped into Death's domain to challenge him and demand answer to your questions. And he gave you that spear you hold and foretold to you your own death, which is like, yeah, that basically happened.
Yeah. You know, not death, but snakes and foxes.
And you didn't step into Death's domain. It was the Finn's domain. And you did demand answers to your questions. They did give you the spear, and they didn't foretell your death, but they did foretell your marriage and the fact that you would be coming back to give up an eyeball.
They totally foretold his death.
Which death?
You'll die twice.
Okay, first of all, that would be plural. That would be deaths.
Okay, deaths. Fine. Yeah. But like,
all right, fair
you will
enough,
die
fair
and
enough.
live again, right? Like you will die and live again. That is a foretelling of his death, 100% foretelling of his death.
That's fair.
Not his final death, but a death.
So yeah, it's just a very well written interaction where Matt's dodging the question badly and Gaibon is demonstrating how rumors fade to legend, and I enjoy it very much.
It's a really well written section of for me it gets at the heart of what Wheel of Time is in a lot of ways.
Yeah, 11 out of 10 to Sanderson on that one. You got it.
Yep. Totally.
So they're walking through the palace, and Thom is the center of attention, not Matt, because Thom is
he's dressed.
returning. Well, a lot of them know who he is. It's not just that he's dressed, he's returning. And there's a lot of... And also he's doing his Gleeman thing where everyone's eyes are on him because he's just magnetic.
Right.
But
he's good at that.
the fact that he's returning in full fig is definitely surprising a lot of the palace staff.
And you get Matt finally being like, burn me, I should have worn something nicer. It's just fun.
Yeah.
So he walks in on Elayne and immediately goes, damn, she's gained some weight. Should I say something about that, or should I keep myself to myself? I don't know. Seems like if you don't... And I like this line. Sometimes women got angry when you mentioned that they look different, and sometimes they got angry if you did not notice. And I feel like that encapsulates so much about a gender struggle that like is very real, right? This idea that like, yeah, she wants you to notice when she gets a haircut. She does not want you to notice if you get fat. Or gain weight. Sorry, get fat, whatever. Like,
right,
there's certain, like, I don't want you to mention that I have, like, a smear of makeup or, like, bags under my eyes, right? Don't mention that. Like, I think it's things you can control versus things you can't. I understand that there is a difference between those two things, but I like that there's this, like, what? You look different. I mentioned it. Like, I don't understand that there's different categories of looking different.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those like eye roll gender differences, but also it's so rooted in reality. Like it's so rooted in reality. And I'm the kind of person who will notice that you changed your hair about a week later. I'm really slow for whatever reason. And then suddenly after a week of your hair being different, I'll go, wait, did you change your hair? And they're like, yeah. A week ago. Everyone already mentioned it. Like you are very late to the game. That's always been my problem is I just notice stuff so late. But yeah, the well, how was I supposed to know which thing to mention is also it echoes Perrin being like, well, I don't know if Faile wants me to yell or not. And it's like, this is not a business neckline, right? Like that whole thing. It's like the same thing here. It's like, Matt, obviously, if she chooses a pretty gown or a new hairstyle, you should say something. And if she's gained some weight or looks like she might have tripped and fallen down the stairs and has a broken ankle, you don't need to mention those things because she didn't choose it. It's a very simple algorithm, actually, but it totally makes sense for Matt to be like, I don't know. It's so funny.
Yeah, you don't mention when they get themselves into a trap. That's definitely not.
Yeah. Also, he leaves Talmanes outside because he doesn't want to be humiliated in front of him, but Talmanes is all butthurt about it. It's this whole other, like, secondary thing.
Oh, I missed that entirely.
Yeah, he like tells Talmanes to wait outside, and Talmanes looks crestfallen. And Matt says, okay, I'll get you a dinner invite. And at the end of the chapter, he says to Elayne, like, okay, we can have dinner later, but you have to invite Talmanes, otherwise he'll literally skin me alive, and it will be bad. But it's just, it doesn't mean anything. Really, Talmanes and Elayne have no real relationship or dynamic, but it's just a funny dynamic with
I don't really get that.
Matt and Talmanes, where Talmanes really because Talmanes wants the perks of Matt being a noble of higher rank.
Mm-hmm.
Talmanes really wants all the perks of being attached to someone who's a literal prince, and Matt is doing everything possible to not take those perks. And Talmanes is like, dude, we could get into the extra VIP suite and get free drinks. Why don't you want the free drinks?
Because I remember Vannon is all into Elayne, right? Like she charmed the shit out of him. But Talmanes was with the other half of the Band of the Red Hand during that entire trip, right? He was managing the band while Matt and Vannon and a few others were off on this quest to rescue Elayne and that group. So he didn't get a chance to hang out with her. And he probably heard all the stories from like Vannon and that group of people about Elayne, right?
Right. He's like, I want to be friends with the Queen of Andor. That would be awesome. Thank you. And Matt's like, I don't. It's just a funny piece of their dynamic. But the really cool thing is how Elayne has changed to the point that she's a lot less formal now that she's queen. She runs up with all the enthusiasm and the hugging and the excitement and the squeeing and is just way less uptight. And Matt wonders why that is. And I think it's she's grown up into the role that she was always expecting.
She's not pretending to be.
She's not trying to prove herself as being worthy anymore. Now she knows she's worthy because she's actually achieved it. She doesn't have to prove anything. Now she has to do the thing. And she's much more comfortable having achieved it than she was when she was like uncertain, lying about herself, new to the job, pretending to be Aes Sedai, right? She's not pretending anymore. She is queen, full stop.
And it's the difference between my mom's queen and I'm the daughter heir and I'm the daughter heir.
Yes.
Or I'm the queen now. I'm the queen now. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
But there was that moment of like, well, don't you know who my parents are? Versus like, yeah, now I'm in charge.
Right. Plus, she's been holding on to that guilt about leaving them behind in Abu Dar, and she had the letter to let her know that they're okay, but she still needs a good big bear hug from Thom to like really let it all out and like actually believe that they are in fact safe and she didn't abandon them to their deaths.
Yeah, because this is the Bowl of the Winds, right? When that got used, that was the last time. We've had a whole, winter and summer, almost 6 months to a year since then, I think.
Long time.
And she never knew what happened to them for a long time as well. So
yeah, and Birgitta wants to know about Oliver, and like it's just the reunion energy is very warm.
And I like that she apologizes for not responding right away. I'm sorry my steward lumped you in with the wrong group. I didn't know you were there. Like there's an actual apology.
Right, and Matt tries to brush it off, and she's like, no, really, it's embarrassing. Like, this is a profoundly not what I meant to have happen. Like, I've made that apology myself so many times. I'm so sorry. I forgot that I had that email inbox entirely. I wasn't blowing you off. Like, this has happened.
I meant to respond to the text, and I got busy, and then I forgot about the text, and I'm so sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It went into my spam folder for no good reason, and I had to search for it by name when you texted me to ask about it. Like, I've made this apology so many times. And then Matt says, I really, like, you're a queen. I don't want to call you your majesty. That's so weird. And she's like, well, yeah, obviously not unless we're in public. And I guess that is, as TC Traveler is saying, it's a good reason Talmanes wasn't there, because then it would have been more awkward, because that would have been borderline public. Whereas this is kind of a family reunion.
And speaking of family, Thom goes, so how's the pregnancy? And Matt's like, oh, you didn't just gain some weight. You're actually pregnant.
Right.
Thom's like, don't you pay attention? Everybody's talking about it. Right. How are you sitting in like a tavern and are missing the most common piece of gossip? Because, of course, everyone's like, yeah, the queen's pregnant, obviously.
Right. Like, again, she is in her second trimester. She's commissioning maternity gowns. Everyone knows she's pregnant. This is not...
And everyone's speculating on the father.
Yeah, this is not hard news to pick up. Like, what are you doing? How do you not know this?
And there's actually a little bit of like, why doesn't he pick that up? That seems kind of weird. He's just very not paying attention.
I think he's just focused on his own worries and just kind of ignoring news of Elayne as like a default filter. If it's rumors about Elayne, he doesn't care because he's going to talk to her later. Best I got.
Fair. And he's like, Rand's the father? Okay. Like how he's like, does he know you're pregnant? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Does Rand know about this? I should hope he's not too surprised.
He was there when it happened.
I also love that she doesn't even begin to try to keep it a secret from Matt. Like, this is a family reunion. Everyone in this room is qualified to know who the real father is, because obviously we all love Rand, so it makes sense to know who his children are. Like, duh. It's sweet.
I also really like the reunion between Birgitta and Matt. We kind of skipped over that. But that's, the old drinking buddies who without a drink. But like, yeah, that's just, they're good friends. They're still good friends. They stay good friends.
Right. He sticks out his hand for a shake and she's like, come here, and gives him the like backslapping hug thing. Like, yeah, their vibe is good.
And she gave him a squeeze and Matt was like, ow.
Right. Totally.
And so she asked about Abu Dar, and I love Brigitta's response. Forget Abu Dar. What about Oliver? Right? Because she cared about the ugly little kid, right? That's her Gaidal Cain, and he's not Gaidal Cain.
But it's close enough for the instinct to keep a child safe. And, they get the update. Like, yeah, he's fine. He's going to be a professional soldier. But other than that, he's fine. And then Thom tells them the story of the whole adventure. And Matt almost thought of himself as a hero listening to Thom.
Almost.
Like, the way Thom tells it, he comes out as a hero. And that, again, reinforces this is how events fade to myth. This is how it happens, is you get a master bard to tell the story, and it really cleans up the awkward edges and makes everything feel a lot more streamlined. It gives you a clear hero, so on and so forth.
And I like how he's talking to Elayne. He's like, do you know where Perrin is? Because I need a gateway. And she's like, no. He's like, well, so much for a gateway. And it's like, you know this? She just made a deal with the kin to provide gateways.
Like literally yesterday.
You're talking to the person. Yeah, she literally has more gateways to at her fingertips than anybody else. Like, she's the perfect person to send you to the Tower of Genjai.
Yeah, this is the most gateway saturated place you could possibly come. And then we talk about Bell Founders.
Bell Founders, yeah. Dragons. I love the way that Elayne's like, I don't understand why you'd want to throw chunks of metal up in the air. And Rita's like, you wouldn't. You'd throw them at the troops. And she immediately gets like the strategic benefit of that.
Matt rolls out the project proposal, and within 5 minutes, the entire potential is understood by the people that he's pitching the budget at. They get it fast, right? And you know, it's a good reminder that like this once started as throw pretty lights in the sky and here's how you change the physics. But it's also like, we're not going to belabor the point. The strategic implications are going to be grasped very fast.
Especially if you're, you know, a channeler, right? This isn't the first time you've been able to create large amounts of energy concentrated in one spot. You understand the damage that can do.
Yeah, totally. And you can do the math to be like, well, this is how many shots per hour to take out this much wall. Here's how many channelers that's equivalent to.
Mm-hmm. But I do think if Jordan was writing this, there would be a lot more skepticism at first, and he'd have to like build one to convince her. Like she's like, well, we'll have to build one to make sure. I think like her skepticism would have lasted until that first one was demonstrated.
Sure. Which would have been really frustrating to us. I much prefer this approach where she just goes, as a tinkerer and an engineer, yeah, let's build a prototype, but yeah, let's go.
Mm-hmm. Matt, I could kiss you. This is exactly what I needed.
First Snorri, now Matt. Rand's going to get jealous. So funny.
She's like, well, if he would come here, I'd kiss him, but he's not, so I'm going to kiss everybody else.
Right.
I'm just saying, Elayne's a little bit of a horn dog.
She's a green.
Yeah. The way she gets with Rand in the Stone of Tyr for 3 days, and they're just like making out in the hallways. It's like, oh yeah, she's a freak.
Yeah, very much so. She's fireworks in every possible context.
Every possible way. Yeah. Because she like, and at the time she barely knows Rand. She still barely knows Rand, really, if you think about the amount of time they spent together. Like,
he's tall and cute. What more do you need to know?
Yeah. I want tall babies. Okay.
And then we get into the negotiation where Matt says, wow, so generous of you to be so excited to build these for me. And Elayne says, for you?
No, I'll build these for me.
I thought you were being generous giving me these plans for nothing at all.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that's when Thom is just sitting back with some popcorn and just enjoying himself.
And so there's a lot of back and forth, right? Like there's this, but they kind of end up, let's see, what's the final deal? The band can leave at any time. Like the band's fighting in Andor. They have exclusive use of the dragons. No one else can use them while the band's in Andor. They have to give a month's notice before they leave. But when they leave, they get to take a quarter of the dragons with them. And Elayne keeps 3/4 of the dragons.
Yeah. And she foots the entire cost of making them. He supplies the people who get trained in their initial usage.
And she gets them for at least 1 year. Right. They won't leave for at least a year.
Yeah. And it's a lot of back and forth about sovereignty and agency and resource allocation and understanding that the last battle is sort of the overarching looming thing. And these negotiations are a little bit in preparation for after the last battle, because the last battle is clearly going to come real soon and be sort of a moot issue. The dragons will be used to protect humanity, full stop.
And what she's not saying is, I want this band, because we saw it earlier, they're mostly Kyrianan, or there's a good portion of them that are Kyrianan, and she can use them as native sons when coming to take over the Kyrianan throne. And so as soon as they strike the deal, she's like, great, we're going right to Kyrian. First thing. That's the first thing. And he's like, oh yeah, I guess I can see why you're using them for that. That's fine. You know, like you can use them to take over the Kyrian.
Right. Well, because it's not going to be a high mortality event. It's going to be mostly a show of force and keeping peace while a new order gets established. It's not going to really throw away their lives for someone else's ambitions. So he's like, yeah, that seems fine. It gives them something to do rather than picking fights with mercenaries, which is good.
But during the negotiations, he brings out the medallion, his secret hidden card, right? And basically says, you can have this for 3 days and do whatever you want with it. I just want it back.
He offers 1 day and agrees to 3 days in the end. She bargains him up. Very sea folk-like of her. But yeah, he offers it for her to do whatever she wants with it. And then she says, I might be able to copy it, which is integral to his ability to take down the golem. Her being able to copy it is a benefit he hadn't even begun to consider when he considered loaning it to her.
And in a lot of ways, it is how he can start to formulate a plan to take down the golem. He's like, ooh, multiple copies. All of a sudden, ideas start going off.
Right. And for her, the copying process is really annoying and difficult because it doesn't allow a person to hold it and channel, right? There's a lot of issues for her, but for him, it's all benefit because all he needs is that sizzle when it hits a golem. That's all he needs. And she is going to make it possible to take that fucker down.
I'm assuming that the medallion stops negating weaves if nobody is holding it. And that's how she's able to study it. That if she sets it down on a table, she can channel into it.
Right, but she can't hold it and be protected by it and use the power at the same time, which she can with the original. The original has that, and all of her copies don't.
Oh, no. So what I'm thinking is even the original, right? If she's holding it, if somebody's holding it and you try and channel into it, it's going to immediately negate the weaves.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Right? So like, even if she's holding it and tries to channel into it, it's not so much that she can't channel so much as she's trying to channel into a medallion that will negate weaves. So how do you study something that will negate any weave you channel into it? I have to assume that it's deactivated when it's sitting on a table.
Sure. It's got some sort of power up when it's within a certain range of the human electrical field or whatever.
I think it has to be touching his skin for it to work.
That makes sense. Because, yeah, she studies it well enough to make at least a partial copy that works well enough for offensive purposes.
I thought she did make at least one perfect copy of it.
I don't think so.
No, they're all just
Yeah, they're all variations on imperfection. Some of them work better than others. Like some of them don't work at all, and some of them do work a bit, but they all have a flaw that she, kind of will be able to work out once she's not pregnant and dealing with juggling the last battle, but it's going to take a lot more R&D than she has time for the rest of the books. And he feels very naked without the medallion, and then he tells Elayne that the golem's back in town, and she understands how naked he must be feeling without it. She's like, all right, I will be sure to not dick around on giving this back to you, which I appreciate because they already agreed on that, but now she knows that it's not an arbitrary thing. He really is actively in danger. But the fact that she's going to make copies, it pays off. It really does pay off. Oh, yeah, TC Travis, she thinks about keeping the original because Matt won't know the difference. And then she knows that would be not very honorable. And so she gives him back the original. But she does consider not.
The copies can also be overwhelmed, it seems. That, like, the original, you can channel any amount of power at it and will absorb it. The copies, if you get powerful enough, will eventually break down and stop functioning. So they're not quite the protection of the original. Which it makes it seem like the original is some sort of even more than just super terra grial. It's like a supernatural object, kind of like the Horn of Lear.
Yeah.
Right? These objects that seem to have power beyond, and maybe it's just copying it imperfectly, but I kind of have the idea that like, oh well, these things are special in some way.
Yeah, Finn engineering is better, I guess.
Yeah, because we don't know if the Finn made this or if it was taken from another, they just happened to have it and they took it from the real world, right? Did someone come into the gateway and die with that on them and they have that in their possession, or did they make it in response to his request?
Hard to say.
I think it was made and brought in. I don't think the Finn invented it.
I have a hard time imagining the Finn creating anything, but also the fact that Elayne struggles to imitate this makes me think that clearly this technology is from a very different time and place, if not from a different realm.
And the fact that it is a fox head, right, from the Snakes and Foxes, right? So it's not like...
Well, maybe they imbued it with certain properties or something, and that was one of the wishes of one of their visitors.
We don't really know how the wishes work. Yeah, how much power do the Snakes and Foxes have to fulfill wishes?
Don't know. They're weird.
Because it seems like they can't necessarily like change reality, but they can give you things.
Right. But also, reverse engineering someone's tech is hard, as they point out here with Eludra's cannons, right? They kind of talk about the spread of military technology and how we don't really want our enemies to get it, but it's impossible to keep them from getting it ultimately. But also, if you don't have Eludra, you're not going to have as good of a time. It's going to be really hard to reverse engineer something as good as what Eludra's got. And the same rules kind of apply to the Fox head. If you know what you're doing, yes, you can make it. But if you're reverse engineering from the finished product, you're going to need a lot of R&D or some extreme luck to replicate the genius of the original inventor.
I like this exchange between Matt and Elayne. I don't like having men who could leave me at any time. You know I won't hold them back merely to spite you, Matt said. I'll do what's right. What you see as being right, she corrected. Every man should have that option, he replied. Few men use it wisely. We want it anyway. We demand it.
I mean, mic drop, right? Because when Elayne says what you see as being right is mirror reverse, right? Everyone has their own view of what is right. That's kind of the point of being human. You don't get to dictate what is right for me. That's kind of the whole point of having agency. It's kind of the whole point of free will. We demand the right to have our own moral compass, not be dictated at us by someone else who thinks that they're better than us at thinking.
And then once they make the deal, she's like, did you hold that in reserve because you thought I might send you against the two rivers? And he's like, no, but that's a perfectly good example of why.
Yeah, way to prove my point, I guess, because I didn't even know that was in the picture. Yeah, but no, for him, it was just a matter of he has a lot of battle memories and he knows that history rhymes. So he wants to maintain maneuverability for his multinational military force.
And timeline, I'm not really sure where Perrin is in relationship to this. It seems like he's still pretty, it seems like this is further along when he's put the Manetheren, again, because this is closer to Rand's timeline, right? But she's heard rumors, they're old rumors, so I'm not sure exactly what she's heard about where Perrin is at his moment in his quote-unquote rebellion. This could still be her hearing rumors about when he was raising the flag of Manetheren.
Because Perrin puts the flag up and then he takes it down and then he puts it up again. And yeah, really, I think maybe deliberately ambiguous on where we're at with the Perrin timeline.
Next thing I have is Elayne talking to Thom about making him court barred, but not being tied down to being court barred.
She wants to give him a pardon, and she hides it inside a proclamation that he can be court barred at large, because that's a big smokescreen to hide the, by the way, I pardon you for anything and everything, including up to and including murder or whatever.
It feels a little bit like an honorary doctorate, where it's like you've done you've done the work, you never actually got the doctorate, but we're just going to give you that title and let you go about your life with that title because you've done so much.
Which, I think he's earned. The only reason that he left Camelin in such a bad odor was because Morgade was young and impulsive, and he was young and impulsive, and they had a bad fight. It wasn't even Ravine. It was just a bad time.
Well, also, he killed her husband.
And that's what the pardon is for, right? Yeah.
The pardon in both Andor and Cairhien is for killing both kings.
King killer over here.
Yeah. He has, remember, because back when the king killed his love.
Dana.
But
he also killed Tarangale.
But he also killed Tarangale because Tarangale was going to kill Morgase because he wanted to take over Andor.
Yeah. So Elayne's just kind of I don't really care.
So she just pardoned him for the killing of two kings.
Yeah, because they were bad people and you're cool. So it's okay. Basically. That's her basically our argument.
Yeah. And he's like, I don't know if how does she know she pardoned me for killing two kings? Is that is she aware that that's, and I wonder who told her, and she's aware. I think she knows.
Yeah. It's did she just pardon me for killing her biological father? Awkward.
Basically. Yeah, basically. And her biological uncle, right? Isn't Domandred somehow related to her through?
Yeah. Tarangale Domandred.
Yeah.
Tarangale is a Domandred. So yeah, if Thom killed, what was his name? Who was in Cairhien?
Barthanes
Domandred. Yeah, that one. Yes, Galdrian Rioton and Barthanes Domandred.
And Barthanes was a dark friend.
Yeah. And Barthanes is the one that Thom kills, because Galdrian gets killed by someone else. I was just re-listening to this part
That's
of the books,
right.
is that he thinks Galdrian killed Data, and then he learns that Galdrian's already dead, so he can't kill him. And then the innkeeper says, oh, actually, these people who you just stabbed in the face are not Galdrian's people.
They're Dom and Dreads, yeah.
They're Barthanes' people. So then Thom goes off and kills Barthanes, who was a dark friend.
Right. And not technically the king. I know we say two kings, but like...
He's vying for the kingship. He's trying to get
Yeah,
the kingship back to House Domodred, because House Ryoton has had it since the Domodreds lost it in the Aiel War 20 years ago. It all comes back around.
Right.
But yeah, it's funny how Thom gets a pardon because he's cool. But it's fine. And then there's a bit more sibling-style banter between Elayne and Matt about language and coats, and it's cute and funny.
And him being, you're no bloody noble, and she's like, well, if you don't name yourself a title, I'm gonna give you one. She's basically like, yeah, I'm gonna make you a noble no matter what you say.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, you don't have Perrin's audacity in claiming a title. I'll make sure you get one. Not knowing he already has one. It's called Prince of the Ravens.
Oh, yeah. Don't sleep on that one.
And then, yeah, she boots them out so that way she can, have her daily midwife visit, and she'll see them for dinner in 3 hours. And Matt's like, that went well. I definitely reeled her in. I came out the winner. Thom's like, sure,
And Tom's
Matt.
like, yeah, you did. Sure, Matt.
Buddy.
Yeah.
You want me to go help you buy a coat before dinner? Because he needs to get a new coat before he has dinner with the queen. And then that's the banter that they end the chapter on.
I do like, so, Thom, you going to buy me a coat? I didn't say I'd buy it. I just said we're going to go get you a new one. You're buying.
Yeah.
You're the rich noble. So yeah, love that chapter. I thought that was a really, really good Matt chapter. Probably the best one that I think Sanderson's written. It had a lot of the sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Hypocritical humor that I think Matt is so well known for. Good reunion, good side characters, good plot, right? Good resolution to a couple of plot lines that we've been waiting for a while. Having dragons be made finally, right? All that kind of stuff. Really, really thought that was a good chapter. I even enjoyed the Perrin one a little bit more than I thought I would, because we had, Faile dealing with Elayne finally. Perrin learning the wolf dream finally. There's just a lot of finallys where I'm like, oh my God, finally, this is happening. And I think for a lot of people, especially when I first read these, that's what made the book so good. It was like, oh my God, this is finally happening.
Yeah, and we're not, like last episode, we were jettisoning a lot of plots and characters out of the way.
Sure.
This time, we were actually moving our core stories forward. These are the things we're not jettisoning. These are the things that we are actually going to work on. This is what we're making space for. And it's nice to have the space for them. It is really, really nice. I did enjoy both these chapters quite a bit. The second one more so, but still, both were good.
Mm-hmm. And next week, we get Nynaeve's Aes Sedai test.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I like that chapter a lot.
And don't forget, this is episode 555.
Oh,
we hadn't said
I
anything.
forgot about
But yeah,
that.
This is 555.
Wow.
Trip fives.
Wow. This is a 555 episodes of either book chapters or the tangents between books. That does not include the show coverage episodes. It does not include bonus episodes.
Forsaken episodes.
Like the Forsaken episodes or whatever. It's only chapter episodes and tangents. That is what the numbers have been counting. And yeah, the podcast is 555 deep. Amazing. That's
amazing.
Wild. That's a lot of content.
I'm almost sure we're going to hit 600. I don't think we're going to go much over that.
Yeah, somewhere around 600, probably. Wild.
Just based on how many chapters there are. Well, we've got we might get around 650, right? Just give or take. But yeah, the binge must be insane at this point.
Yeah. It's so much longer than the books themselves. So much longer. But
as always, a huge shout out and a huge thank you to everyone who supports us on Patreon. You are the reason we're able to get to 555. You're the reason we're able to get to we are in shouting distance of doing a complete spoilers podcast for every single chapter. It's the end is in sight in terms of getting through these books. And I think that's just absolutely amazing. And 555 episodes. Hitting 500 was kind of amazing, hitting half of 1,000. But for some reason, this number is driving it home even more that we have produced so much content. And this has been going now we're coming up on 9 years relatively soon in April. I suppose it's not 6 months away, but we're at 8.5 years now, basically, exactly. And that's just so long to be doing this. And I'm so grateful for all the support that I've gotten from everybody over all the years. Talking about my favorite book series.
Yeah, it's an incredible thing to be part of. And as a celebration of that, we're going to end this recording and go start experimentally seeing about maybe doing another podcast. We'll let you know. We'll see.
God damn it, Donut.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Please rate and review us on your podcast app, and consider supporting us on Patreon for ad-free episodes. What Spoilers is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.